Hi, my friends. I have missed you so much. I haven't been on YouTube for about a year. I think it was a year ago with my last video. And since then, everything has changed. I have recently, just in the last couple weeks, been receiving a flood of messages from those of you being compelled from the Spirit to reach out to me. And I just want to let you know that is all in God's design. He wants me to make this video, and the Lord wants me to come back on here and share my soul, my heart, what we've been through in our family, what I've learned, and how my heart has changed. And so much has changed, and I cannot wait to share with you. So I'm going to first begin by sharing an update about my daughter, Makenzie. I want to talk about, she had an accident, and I want to talk about her accident and what's happened since and where we are today. And then I feel that I have a message for you. I feel new, I feel refreshed, I feel born again. And I feel this message will help you guys in your journey, in your decisions for your family, and help you have the faith to go forward, because we are in a time where great trial is upon the earth, where many of us are going through hardships and tests and trials and tribulations, and we need each other. And I think I'm on here more for me than for you. I think going through what I've been going through is God wants me here because He wants me to have your strength. And so I'm so grateful to be back. And I haven't even started and I'm already tearing up. All right, so I'm going to start with this last January of 2023. This is when Makenzie's accident happened. Now, Makenzie, the start of her junior year was exactly a year ago, 2022, in late August, early September. She turned 16 in the summer. She got her license. She was like every 16-year-old girl. She started her own business, her own cleaning business. So, because she knew she didn't want to work for anyone, she wanted to work for herself on her own terms. And she started this cleaning business, and it really started rolling. And she started getting clients and having enough hours to where she was making pretty good money every week. And she was a business owner, and I was so proud of her. Kind of have that entrepreneur blood in our family. And she was very independent. It was the start of her independence, which she will tell you she didn't really want. She was going from always being home, which she loves home. She's a homebody. Her heart is in the home, to having to start to spread her wings and fly. And that transition was very hard for her. But she still homeschooled with us in the morning. And it was in the afternoon where she would run off and do her little cleaning business, which she loved. And then she joined a dance company, and it's Christ-centered, has high morals, modesty, just Christ-centered values, good kids. And she auditioned, got in, and we felt good about it. And she was just around really good kids, and the directors were, most of them, I think a lot of them are homeschool moms. So I was like, okay, my tribe, like, they're awesome mothers. And we both felt so good about it, that this would be a good opportunity for her. And the summer prior, last summer of 2022, we had gone on a trip to Nauvoo, and we got to see all the amazing shows in Nauvoo. And she fell in love with the performing missionary idea. And so she was like, I want to be a performing missionary. So that's why this dance company just kind of was the perfect transition. She could get her dance experience. She's already a singer, a very highly trained singer, soloist. And it would kind of set her resume and her experience for being a performing missionary. So she was just, like every other girl, going on a couple dates, just loving life. And being a vibrant teenager, she was the chorister in our ward. So she led the music and was just beautiful up there, smiling and gorgeous. And I would think happy, but there was a sadness in her because of this breakaway from being at home. It was just, again, very hard for her. Come January, the dance company announced a competition, and the competition was going to be in March. And Makenzie said she just felt this inner feeling of she's not going to be at the competition. She just had this feeling, and she didn't know what it was. Well, let's just go to January 19th of when the accident happened, when all of our lives changed. January 19th, she had rehearsal. You know, she drove there from her piano and voice lesson. Thursday was her busiest day. She would tell you she hated Thursdays because she was away from home the longest. She homeschooled very small in the morning, and then she had to run off and do piano lesson, run off and do her voice lesson, and then run off and do her dance rehearsal all night. And so it was her busiest day and her least favorite, because she couldn't spend time with the family and with her mom. And I just love that still at heart, a 16-year-old girl, she just wanted to be at home. And so she goes to this dance rehearsal, and we're thinking all is well. I'm hanging out at home with my twin boys. We're hanging out in the hot tub, and my husband runs out and he says, I just got a phone call. Makenzie's been in an accident. We have to go to dance rehearsal. And I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. So, you know, I get my stuff on and we bolt it to the dance studio. I find Makenzie lying on a bench on the side of the rehearsal room, and she's in shock and she's shaking. Her eyes are super dilated. I can tell she's sweating. She's not knowing really what's going on. She's pretty much, I mean, she knows who I am and she knows her father, but I just felt this stirring, like, oh no, like we need to get her to the ER. Walk her out to the car, and she was stumbling. She couldn't walk. She couldn't really say sentences. So what had happened was they were practicing a flip, and this flip had two guys on both sides, and the girl was in the middle, and the guys would cross their arms and grab hold of each other, and they would turn and flip. The girl was in the middle, and they would turn and flip the girl around. Well, this is the first time they were doing it. These guys, I'm a professional dancer, and these guys are not dancers. They're not experienced at all. So for this flip, which is very advanced, is very hard to do. And that day when they were doing the flips, they weren't using the mats on the floor. There wasn't supervision going on. There was a big group of 40 kids, and everyone was trying it, and it got kind of wild, and which I know, I understand. I'm a teacher. I taught ballet for 20 years. I've taught high school kids. I understand how that can happen when it gets a little energized crazy. And Makenzie was the most petite one, so they always wanted to try the moves with her. So they flipped her, and she went around, she thinks she went around twice around the back, and she hit the back of her head flat on the hardwood floor at like a massive speed. It was so loud that the entire studio full of loud about 40 teenagers went silent. And they all raced to Makenzie. And she's delirious, seeing spinning, and that's when it all happened. She went into shock immediately. So I'm not going to do every single little detail along the way. I'm going to give you a general idea of how our life changed, how her life changed in that moment. I had no idea. No idea what I was walking into. We go to the ER, and they just tell us it's a concussion. Oh, she just has a little concussion. Rest for 2 days, she'll be fine. We come home, things aren't right for 2 days. It's wrong. We both feel wrong about it. Something's not right. So we go back to the ER and we get a CT scan. Scan's fine. Again, she's fine. Everything's fine. It's just a concussion. Just go home, have her rest a little bit. She'll be fine. Well, from January to March, it was pretty straightforward concussion. It was, okay, Makenzie, let's rest. Let's take it easy. I was gung-ho helping her. I said, no more school. We're going to take off what we can. Obviously, you're not going back to dance, but at that point, we really thought by March, you should be good. Like, if this is just a concussion, by March, you should be fine. Just rest it up. So for those 2 months, we just rested, having hope in by March, she'll be fine. She'll be able to go to the dance competition and we'll be good. We were in denial, okay? We were in denial. And we didn't know what was ahead. Come March, we head off to McCall, Idaho for a family ski trip. We do this every year. It was beautiful there and gorgeous. And Makenzie was happy and she seemed to be getting better. And she didn't go skiing with us, but we left her home alone and she was fine. She could fend for herself at home, walk around. We were worried and, she just has a concussion. On the drive home from that trip, she started feeling a lot of pressure in her brain. And she started to say, she started to kind of go do these little things of like, there's too much pressure in my brain. The drive was a nightmare. We had to stop a lot of the time to relieve her pressure. She said it felt like her brain was exploding in her skull. We get home and the day after, this is in March, 2 months after her accident, the day after we get home, she has a full day of seizures. She starts seizing just constantly, her whole body shaking. I have never seen this in my child. I was completely frightened, had no idea what to do, and started feeling fear. Starting looking up, on Google, seizures after head injury, and found all these things of, it could be, a stroke, it could be a brain bleed, it could, cause death in 2 days, 24 hours. I'm getting freaked out here. I just stayed next to her for that full day of her seizures, full body seizures, just shaking. She couldn't stop. Finally, I'm like, that's it. It was Monday morning. I had called OHSU. Supposedly they're world-renowned for their pediatric neurology department. Call them and tell them what's going on with my daughter. And they just say, I'm sorry, you need a referral. There's no time for a referral. My daughter's dying here. Her brain could be bleeding. I rush into her room and I'm frantic. And I said, Makenzie, we're getting in the car. We're going to the ER right now. We're going to OHSU ER. And we're going to have you get an MRI. Drive there, go to the OHSU hospital. I'm frantic. It's kind of all this, what's going on? Are you dying? This and that. Like, of course I didn't tell her like, you're dying, but I thought something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I kept telling them something's wrong with my daughter. They get her into the MRI. When they wheel her in, they separate us. This is key to her story. They put me in a different room and they say, we're going to take you. I'm crying because this is part of what her issue, what really scarred her and traumatized her going forward. She goes into the MRI by herself. She says, I'm not going to open my eyes. I'm not going to open my eyes. Well, she opened her eyes and she started freaking out. They got the scan. Everything's normal. They say, sorry, she's normal. She just needs to rest. She'll be fine. Just do what you're doing and you'll be okay. Well, what happened after that was a complete avalanche, a complete, I want to say, killing of my daughter, a deterioration of my daughter, a complete deterioration of my daughter. I have to get a tissue. In the days following, her brain started shutting down little by little. She went from a 16-year-old who was coherent and could speak to an infant baby, drooling out of her mouth, not able to control her body, not able to hold her own head up, not able to walk, couldn't speak, and often couldn't breathe. She would have suffocated to death if I wasn't next to her side and held her head up. Just have your daughter go from a normal, vibrant, well, beautiful, talented, intelligent, quick, articulate young woman to an infant. Oh, I can't even tell you the pain that caused for my mother heart. And no one had answers. The doctors didn't have answers. They said everything was normal. On top of that infant nightmare, she now, to process all the trauma that she went through in the hospital and the, what's going on, and then her body falling apart, and now she's not even a functioning human being. She now had PTSD. So she now has PTSD and frequent panic attacks and anxiety and fear, and it all was very shocking. And it all turned my world upside down. So the things that I would do normally to comfort her, that, when she was a 16-year-old, brushing her hair, whispering in her ear, rubbing her arm, trying to coax her on her leg, any of that stuff that I did, she would scream and yell and get frightened, and it would trigger these panic attacks that looked like a war veteran. She now lived in this war veteran delusion of her brain, where she literally felt people were coming to hurt her, harm her, take her away, and it was real to her. The only way I can describe this, it might seem extreme to some of you, but it's not. The only way I can describe this brain injury, what we're living in, this nightmare we're living in, is it's as if it's a mother's worst nightmare. It's as if your child is kidnapped and they're in the corner being tortured, and you're having to watch it and witness it, but you can't do anything to stop it or help it. That's what I live every single day. I had no idea. As I said before, I had no idea what a brain injury is. It's not you just lay down, turn the lights low, and just wait till it passes. My innocent, pure daughter is being tortured by her mind every day. It's not only those panic attacks, but it's when the brain, sometimes her brain will try to, I think, reconnect nerves, and it starts shooting pain all down, up and down her body, and she's just screaming in pain all day long. Those are days we live through, where again, there is nothing I can do. I can't even touch her because that hurts her. the infant stage, we got through it. It's normal in a brain injury now that I'm in brain injury support groups. We got through that. She got to the point where she could write on a whiteboard. So we would communicate with a whiteboard because she couldn't talk. Her tongue wouldn't work. And her head would roll and drool, and, you have to have, just like a baby, wipe up the drool. And oh, I can't even tell you how heartbreaking that is. I thought I was over this, but it is fresh in my heart, as you can see. I'm still living through it every day. She had this friend, her best friend, who would text her every day. And he was her medicine. He was her medicine. Oh, I didn't think I would cry so much on this video. He helped heal her through that infant stage. Now, there were miracles in this time. I don't want to be all downer and poopy about it. There were miracles in this time. And if you follow her blog, I'll put the link below. She's had a blog, and she's an amazing writer. And in a stage where she couldn't even talk, and she couldn't, she was drooling and she couldn't hold her own head up, she had written, Mom, I want to write on my blog. So I gave her the computer, and she just, in 5 minutes, she wrote this amazing poem. And that's what's so deceiving to, if you followed her blog, or you might have texted her, God allowed her to use her talent of writing still, even when she couldn't talk, and when she couldn't eat, and when she couldn't even hold her own head up, when she couldn't do anything. He opened up this portal in her that brought the gift of writing out. And that's a miracle. That is a miracle, because I often think people read her blog and just thought, oh, she's fine, she's writing. No, she can't shower. I have to shower her every night. I have to dress her. I have to feed her. We have to carry her around. She can't talk to us. She can hardly write a sentence on the whiteboard. I mean, she could barely write it out with her hand. It was just almost ineligible. But yet she wrote this beautiful poem in 5 minutes. Those are the miracles. That's God. So I saw God's hand through it. I have to mention these 2 days. There were 2 days when she said her brain was shutting down. It was when she couldn't talk, walk. She was drooling, still seizures all day long. She was laying in bed. Up to this point, I had no thought in my mind that she was going to die. I knew she was going to be fine until these 2 days. She wrote on the whiteboard, "My brain is shutting down. My brain is shutting down." And me and my husband, we trade off sleeping with her at night. She doesn't sleep alone anymore. I was next to her that night after she said her brain is shutting down. And I looked beside her bedside, and I saw the book, one of my favorite books, Journey to the Veil by John Pontius. And she had been reading Journey to the Veil, or attempting to. She couldn't focus, obviously, when you have a brain injury. But it was there. And all of a sudden, this feeling washed over me that I had never faced before. Is God taking my daughter? Is he taking her? Is this it? That was a really, really, really hard moment to be in. I can't even cry now about it because I cried so much for those 2 days. As I went to bed, I don't know if any of you have been in a situation where you start planning your child's funeral. I've never been in that situation. But in that 2 days, all that came to my mind and my heart was everything that Makenzie has contributed to this world. Her little flowers pressed in her poetry books, her poetry she writes, her scriptures and all her journaling on the side and her notes and flowers and her beautiful penmanship. All her thank you cards that she writes to everyone. Her cards that she writes to me. It fills up a whole bucket. She writes me so many beautiful cards about how grateful she is to me. Just all this light started emanating from her. And all the little trickles of light drops that she dropped all over the earth, they just started beaming and glowing. And I just pleaded with the Lord. I said, you cannot take her. You cannot take her. I need her here. I need that light. And after 2 days, God took it away. And I knew she would be fine. I knew she wasn't going to pass. It wasn't her time. But it was going to be a hard road ahead. A hard road. So we've gotten out of the newborn stage. She got out of it. But now we're in the toddler stage. And right now she can walk. She actually uses a walker. So she walks around with a walker, and I still need to shower her. I still need to dress her. I brush her hair. She can talk and hold her head up, and she's not drooling anymore. Her seizures are virtually gone. Her seizures they were pseudo seizures. So they're actually from all the trauma that she went through. They'd never damaged her brain. It was her body's way of releasing all of that trauma. So sometimes she'll have a little shake moment, but we just let her do. It's her body's way of coping. Because of her PTSD and her panic attacks, she is very isolated at home right now. I haven't gone to church for like 6 months. We just do home church. She cannot be alone. So something that's happened is our family dynamics have completely changed. Where Makenzie was the oldest in the family, she's now the youngest. So Drew, my 11-year-old, now is a babysitter for her when I have to go, run the boys somewhere to a lesson or this or that. Someone always has to watch Makenzie and be with her. And we can't leave her alone, even alone in a room. We just always need to be watching her. She doesn't have to use the whiteboard. She can communicate with me. We're still very, very far from the finish line. There's still a lot of journey that we have. I now have turned into a caregiver. So I am her full-time caregiver. And I'm a homeschool mom. I mean, a lot of this is Makenzie's story to share, and she will share it. She will. I often ask the Lord why she has to go through this. Why does this pure, delightful, precious child have to be tortured every day? The torturing hasn't stopped. In fact, this week it's been extremely difficult. It's been very, very hard. Days where she is, tortured by her panic attacks, screaming, where her nerves go off and her body is aching in pain, and it's horrific to watch it. Why does this daughter have to do this? And as I'm praying, the only thing that every time that comes to my mind is Mary Magdalene. Every time. There's Mary Magdalene being tortured for years, just waiting for her moment where Christ could come and heal her and she could walk with Christ to the end and be the first to witness his beautiful resurrected glory. And it just, Makenzie is a Mary Magdalene. That's what the Lord tells me. She's a pure soul who has to walk through this trial, this tribulation. I don't understand it completely, but her mission ahead is going to be very huge. And she has a big call. And in order to fulfill her mission, she has to experience some of this torture, this darkness, this hell on earth. And that's really what this is. It's a hell on earth. And I'm going through it with her. And it's so difficult. At this point, I know there's so many people have reached out to me. Another hard thing about this is I don't have much help, because the thing is I have so much family around that wants to help. But Makenzie is very isolated in her brain injury. This brain injury, it's like she's locked in her mind, she's lost, and she's fearing so many things that we wouldn't think were rational. She doesn't want family to come over, like my mom or my in-laws. She doesn't want cousins, uncles, aunts, anyone from church. So many people have offered to help, but it sets her into PTSD, panic attack. It's frightening for her. She cannot do it. So we're very isolated in our home. And I'm her sole caretaker. I don't have help. I can't have it right now. She's not there yet to accept help from other people. So it is very, very hard on me. It is a very heavy burden to carry. But God is sustaining me. Something my husband said from the beginning of the video, I said, everything has changed and not so much has changed. Well, God set us up for this. He prepared us for this. My husband said, every choice that you've made has prepared our family for this, for caring for Makenzie. I don't work. I obviously don't run a YouTube channel. I left Instagram. I just have no presence needed outside of this home. We homeschool, and I will give an update on this year and how we're going to balance everything. But essentially, everything's changed as our family dynamics has switched, but I'm home, our family's still home. Our family's still together. And as you guys try to decide, what you're going to do with your family this school year, what is best for your kids, how to raise beautiful children and a beautiful family, I want to testify to you that I have a beautiful family. And it's because of what I have done, and that I've followed God and all that he's given me. And I've done it very diligently and faithful. And I just want to bring you strength that you can do it, that you can root yourself in Christ and raise up a family that values home, that values each other. And through this entire experience, my twin boys are 15 now. My twin boys, through this whole experience, have been the most amazing gentlemen It softened their hearts seeing their sister debilitated, seeing her tortured, seeing her going through so much pain. They are just the most gentlemanlike men. They carry her from downstairs all the way up the stairs to her room. They check on her, say, "How are you doing, Makenzie?" They sit next to her and read to her and tuck her in and put the essential oils in her humidifier. And our family is greatly blessed because we have angels in our home. Because I worked my rear off. I worked my rear off to leave the world, to reject all that is wrong and bad and evil, to protect my home from outside influences, to have godly media and purity here at all times. And it does feel in our home, even when at times when she's screaming in torture, it does feel like a heaven on earth. And I'm here to raise beautiful children. Beautiful. And that word I want to share with you. I'm sorry if I'm a little long-winded, and if you're still here, you are a true friend, and I feel you. I feel your presence. I've had a really hard time being caretaker. I had a little meltdown about 2 weeks ago, where it was so much to bear the burden of my 16-year-old. She's gone for the moment. She's my 17-year-old. She's gone for the moment. You know, we're getting through this. So she was so sweet. She told me about a caregiver support group. You know, my family leaves. My husband takes the kids downstairs and he feeds them while I'm on this caregiver support group to help my struggling soul. I log in, and what I see is very tired, wrinkled, old, run-down human beings in not pretty homes. Maybe RVs, maybe trailers, very humble settings. So at first sight, you see these people who the world would consider the low of the low. But after that meeting with those souls, God spoke to me and said, "These are my beautiful people." Because they were caring for their loved one who had undergone a traumatic brain injury, who was debilitated. They had given their lives. Many of them said they never left their homes, kind of like me. They never left their homes, and they sat there and cared for their loved one and gave their life to their loved one who had an injury, an accident. And that hasn't left me since. These are my beautiful people. And I again testify to you and tell you that I want to raise beautiful people. I want to, and I will. And it's through trial and tribulation and challenge and listening to the still small voice and following it and being brave enough to follow it and step out of cultural mediocrity, cultural perversion, to follow God and turn your home into a refuge and make family first, make family second, make family third. That is what creates beautiful people. I pray for all of you. I know many of you are going through trial and tribulation, just as I am. It's not all for naught. It is shaping us. And ultimately we are being prepared to receive our Savior when he comes again. And we're in that era, we're in that day of God preparing his people. And it's up to us to choose to receive the call and to be the prepared people. We can choose to do that. It takes courage, a lot of tears, and some tantrums. Yes, I have thrown a couple tantrums to my God where I have said and cried, "Where art thou?" And in those moments, I know I'm being called, and Mackenzie's being called to walk through our own Gethsemane, to endure our own Liberty Jail, as Joseph Smith had to do. We all are called to carry our cross and to walk through suffering so that we can be counted among those in the circle of Christ. So after all my tears, what are we doing going forward? Well, this year we are homeschooling still, of course. I am now a homeschool mom and a caretaker, so I'm going to have to balance homeschooling. Makenzie is not doing any school. She's obviously, her brain can't handle much at all. We do some cognitive therapies with her every day, and she has some therapies that she's doing, but her job is to get better. At the beginning of the video, I had said that we were planning to graduate her. This last year was going to be her last year of homeschool. Once she got her brain injury, I said, "Congratulations, Makenzie, you're graduated." So she's done with high school. Our original plan was that she was going to do pathways for BYU the following year for her senior year. Everything is God's now. We gave her life to God, and she is following his timetable and his way. And that's another thing. We can plan. When you're planning your school year this year, you're picking out curriculum, or you're thinking you need to do this or that, or you have a high schooler and you're on the fence. You're thinking, I want them to get into college and get a diploma, so I might have to send them to public school or whatever. I want you to consider this story and to consider what truly is important. I want to share with you what truly saved Makenzie. It wasn't math class. It wasn't history class. It was when she came to me and said, "Mom, I feel that I need to read Jesus the Christ for my junior year." And I said, "Okay, that's going to be your curriculum, Jesus the Christ. That's going to be your history, your language arts, your grammar. That's going to be your writing. That's going to be your geography. Jesus the Christ is going to be your school." And you could never have done that if she was in a public school, a private school, a co-op. We could have never done it. We had the freedom to follow God. She read that book, and she had a podcast, and she spent a year walking with Christ, knowing him knowing her. And at the end of the year, she stood and testified at a youth camp that she knew Christ. She knew him. And that prepared her for this accident. Because when you have a brain injury, you can't feel anymore. She said she can't feel. She can't hear the spirit anymore. She can't feel the spirit. She can't feel. She's numb. And you know what's kept her going is that year where she walked with Christ and studied Jesus the Christ. And so please consider, what is more important to your children? Is it the fun activities? Is it the sports? Is it running around crazy busy, never seeing them? Is it them being with their friends? Or is it family and Jesus? And I would hope that this video and Makenzie's story would turn your heart to change, that you can cancel some of the activities that you signed your kids up for, that you can switch around the studies that they're doing and add Jesus to it more, that you can maybe change your whole plan, bring them home. Because don't you want to raise beautiful people in Christ? I want to. And that's what I'm doing. No matter how hard it gets, I'm doing it. And I need your support. And I'm here to support you. And I know God wanted me on here. So leaving the comments open. Please comment. Please share your love, your kindness. I love you. Please pray for Makenzie. I'm asking for mighty prayers. Please pray with all your soul that this daughter of God can have her brain restored, that the demons can leave, that she can be lifted from the torture that she's in, that she can have a clear mind and a quick spirit, that she can be able to feel the Spirit again, feel Christ close to her. Pray those things for me. We need your prayers. You know, it's not all bad. There's good things that come. And I do have a miracle that I'm going to be sharing with you in the next video. Another amazing story. I love you all. You are the beautiful people on this channel. And I'm grateful for your friendship. And I'm just I feel so honored that God called me to share this story. I love you all. And I'll be seeing you really, really soon. Goodbye, my beautiful people.